A big shout out to all the truckers that listen to our show. You are listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio Network, from our compound to you worldwide, with your host, Gary Anderson.
And that is me. Wouldn't you believe it? We started the show and one of the computers decided I'm going to update regardless of what you say. Isn't that a frustrating thing, James?
Yeah, it's not only frustrating, it's stressful because it's the timing of when it wants to do this stuff. You know, it has all day to do it, but it's going to do it while, it's time to do a show.
Oh, yeah, that's what is really, really frustrating. So right now, I'm trying to pause the updates for 7 days, but it's not even letting me do it. So we'll see what happens, but I don't know. Anyway, you know what? We talked a lot of good topics last night. We talked about asteroids and what we could do maybe to keep from having to hit. I did more research today. I think if we can get our technology a little bit more advanced with the laser we have, the lasers, I think, is the way to go. I don't think sending up a rocket or a bunch of missiles with nukes on it is going to cure the problem. That, I think, is going to actually enhance the problem drastically. Again, a laser, I don't know if that's going to do it, but I can tell you, I don't know how close, at this point, and how, actually, we don't even know what the range of a laser is. But if we had lasers up on the moon, lasers on satellites, maybe that might be something where we can just kind of knock the asteroid a little bit off its path where it doesn't hit.
Yeah, we definitely need something. I don't know. I haven't researched into the lasers as much as you have, but if that's a possibility, why not? And I think you're right. If we can station, put them in orbit somehow on its own satellite or on the moon, like you said, and if their work can, move them out of the orbit where they're going to hit us, get them out of our path, that would be great.
Well, NASA has noticed something here too, in the past week and a half, that there's a whole bunch of Russian satellites following our satellites. In other words, our satellites are up there, and then they kind of put one of their satellites right there next to it. Now, are they gathering our information? Something is going on, because this started going on.
Wow, that's interesting. I never heard nothing about that yet, but again, there's 4,170 or more, at least that many satellites in orbit up there. And so that's a lot of satellites. So, Lord knows what some of them's actual mission or job is.
Could you imagine you're on the space station out there, right? And you got to go out there and work on something. I would be scared to death because there's so much space debris out there just floating around. And do you realize one of those things, depending on how fast it's going, could puncture your suit or go right through you? So these astronauts are really brave. You couldn't get me out. I don't care if there's a rope between me and the space station. You couldn't get me. Matter of fact, you couldn't get me out in space, let alone to be walking, on a space station or something. It's scary, just the thought of it, because what happens if that rope broke or if something happened? I don't trust anything because, hey, let's face it, you go buy something, how many times is it defective or it breaks?
That's true. And here's the thing. Everything up there is mechanical. So you're putting your life in the hands of something mechanical that was man-made, and they're all going to break eventually or wear or tear down. And you speak about these things in space, but a lot of people don't realize, too, is micrometeorites. I mean, it could be size of your pinky. One of those things hits you going at 5,000 miles an hour, like you said, it's going to go right through. It's going to wreck your day.
Yeah, what day?
Yeah,
you don't have a day or night up there. But
no,
put it this way. You're going to come back in a body bag. And the thing is, they try tracking all this debris. But you know what? It's like going to, I hate to say, a dump because you got all this trash everywhere. Well, it's the same thing in space. They got how many dead satellite? I can't even talk tonight. All these objects, satellites up there, dead ones, just, in orbit. And, there's still a Russian astronaut, going around out there, too. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I do. That's crazy, too. And, you're right. There's over 1 million pieces of junk out there. Now, that's just what NORAD can track. Now, there's probably 10 times that amount that's so small that they can't track it. So think about that. That's a lot of stuff floating around up there. We've literally polluted our space around us.
Yeah, and, just think about it. I mean, they had a leak in the International Space Station here back a couple months ago. They had a patch. I mean, all it would take is something, to come through and puncture it.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. Them guys, I got to give hats off to them. They really are risking it out there because there's so much that could go wrong so quick. Again, it doesn't take much. And you could be like that movie Gravity where you're looking at your partner going off into space and there's not much you can do about it. He's gone.
Pretty much, yeah. As soon as his oxygen is gone, he's gone. But, I mean, could you imagine if that happened, what thoughts you'd have?
Yeah. And another thing, if there is ever, you get a hole in your spacesuit, I believe you only got a few seconds before you just kind of blow up, I think.
Yeah, you would implode.
Yeah, and that's not going to be fun. That might leave a mark.
Yeah, more than that. It'd be like bug juice. But, again, why haven't we gone back to the moon? Now NASA has scrapped the whole idea of going back to the moon. We have this other person, Bigelow, wants to, here in the next 20-some years, put 1 million people on Mars. But yet, we haven't gone back to the moon. We need to see what happens with somebody living on the moon for like 3 months, 6 months, a year. Before we even think about putting somebody on Mars, I think that's the most ludicrous idea ever.
I agree with you. And the thing is about going to Mars, you have to wait for that certain window where the planets are in a certain position just to get there in 2.5 years, one way. And then however long you're there, if you plan on coming back, you're looking at a 5 to 6 year round trip. And then you're there in a little space with a few people. That's a lot of mental, I just don't think we're capable of doing it. If we are, we've got technology that's been hidden that nobody knows about.
What's the whole purpose of going to Mars in the first place? It doesn't have an atmosphere to support life as we know it. Okay, that's number one. Number two is, you're not going to go down to the local river and go fishing. What's the whole point? To see if we can live on, you can go to the desert and do the same thing. Or, we can go to the moon. At least you can come back in a matter of a few days. Why go to Mars? That's the most craziest thing in the world. For what reason? To investigate Mars more, to see if life lived on Mars? What's that going to tell us, really?
Yeah, it's kind of like a two-year-old baby that's just learned to walk, and then, tomorrow they're going to go get in a 440 sprint. It's just like, hello, we're not even close to being ready for that. And, like Aage Nost said before, maybe there is things on Mars that they've lied to us about. Maybe it does have an atmosphere. Maybe there is people on there. Same way at the moon. He said he was kind of lying. Maybe they're lying to us. We don't know. We only know what they tell us, too.
Well, there's some reason why we haven't gone back to the moon. Really, what's the whole purpose of NASA anyway? They kind of been not really doing much anything since the late 60s. We had the space shuttles, but, now we don't have any. The military has their little, space shuttles and stuff like that.
Yeah, and good point. I say this all the time. It doesn't compute. a little over 100 years ago, turn of the century, we were still in a horse and buggy. Fast forward 69 years, we supposedly went to the moon. Fast forward 50 years, and we haven't went no further than a few hundred miles above the Earth. What is up with that?
It's flat.
Okay.
No, I had my ears full today with a person called me up. I answered one of my Skype lines when I was in the studio, and he was saying, "Why are you making fun of people who believe in the flat Earth?" I said, "Really, I'm not making fun, but you have to look at the logical side of it." Okay, I mean the guy we had on the other day now is saying that we live in a box or a computer chip. When he was on BBC talking about the flat Earth, well, then he was showing a little cardboard thing, right, with the continents on it, with like ice all around it to keep everything together. I mean, the stories change when they find out it doesn't work. And these flat Earth enders spent a ton of money to try to prove that the Earth is flat. And guess what they found out? The Earth isn't flat. So now they're trying to come up with some other type of proof, because when they did all this stuff and spent all this money to show the Earth is flat, it came back and it showed them, hey, the Earth is round. Duh.
Yeah. Well, and also the guy said that we had ice walls and that the moon and the stars are pasted on the ceiling, and that the government has been using computer images to fool us since the early 1950s.
Yeah, oh, come on. The computers in the 50s wouldn't have done it, let alone the 60s. I mean, the grasping at straws here, my friend. But you know what? If you want to believe the world is flat, that's up to you. I'm not going to make fun of you. That is your belief, okay? Hey, why not? If that it makes you happy and you want to believe the Earth is flat, by the way, I'm God. But that's beside the point.
I like to look at the science of it. I do know that because I believe that because the Earth is round and has a rotation to it, it's, the northern hemisphere, the water goes down clockwise, and southern hemisphere goes counterclockwise. And these things, I don't know. I do think that, and again, if the Earth's flat, we didn't go to the moon. We didn't go anywhere. So it's like there's just so many things against the flat Earth theory, in my opinion, that I've found with my data. But I mean, what do I know?
Well, don't forget, if you're up in a plane, like the one guy said he was on the Concorde, this reporter from the BBC, and he tried to tell this guest that we had on that he could see the curvature of the Earth, and the guy said the same thing to him that he said to me. Your mind makes you see it. It's not there. Try to take a picture. Well, you know what? People have taken pictures and you can see the curvature of the Earth. But no, that's all hocus pocus.
I wonder if the mind can make you think it's flat, too. I wonder if that theory goes both ways.
I have no idea. I guess if you want to sell a book or whatever, that might be a good way to talk about
it. Yeah, right. I agree with you.
I don't know. It's interesting, isn't it?
It is, I'll tell you. And the thing is, there's a lot of people on the flat Earth wagon. I mean, there's obviously not a bunch, but there's more than I thought there would be.
Well, the one scientist he mentioned, said, he believes the Earth is flat. Well, you know what? I listened to all what he says. He doesn't say the Earth is flat. He says it's round. So that is an outright lie that the gentleman said.
Yeah, matter of fact, I seen that episode. He's on the Science Channel.
Oh, yeah.
And, I can't remember the guy's name.
DeGraff or something, whatever.
Oh, yeah, it is DeGrasse. DeGrasse, that's his name. Yeah, he was on there, and he used a cuss word in there. He said, I can quote it. He says, "The Earth isn't beeping flat." And by the way, this is called gravity, and he drops the mic.
Yeah. Well, guess what? Yeah, it's all, I don't know. But, there's a whole bunch of people out there, they have their own beliefs. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's what makes I guess life interesting. If we all believed 100% of